Thank you for accepting this invitation, and I'm really happy to start this experiment of a documentary, a marathon of interviews to painters. So I will interview as many painters as possible in 42 hours. Quickly introduce yourself.
My name is Tong Zhang. I'm from China.
My name is Diana Carlson. I came from Latvia.
My name is Chao Han. I'm from Taiwan.
My name is Jana Go from Berlin.
I'm Max Weiss. I was born in Berlin.
My name is Maria Kovar. I'm Russian born.
My name is Hildur Henriksdóttir. I'm an artist from Iceland.
My name is Andrei Khritonov. I'm from Russia.
My name is Barbara Cammarata. I live in Catania.
I am originally from Dubai.
Davide. I was born in Milan.
I'm Alvaro and I used to live in Portugal.
I'm Antonio Di Leonardo, come from Sicily.
My name is Mavanwi Gibson, and I am Australian, but I live in Milan.
My name is Hamid Reza Sadegzadeh. I'm a painter based in Tehran. I live in Tehran, Iran.
I'm Luca Pravato. I'm in the San Cristobal, Mexico. I work, I live in Berlin, but with this lockdown, maybe no, I live in my body and I go around the world.
The question is if painting is essential during time of crisis and especially during this lockdown. Since the beginning of the pandemic, in which proximity to others is dangerous, arts were considered not essential, with concerts, museum, movie theater and festival being closed in the blink of an eye. And so I'm going to do a 42-hour marathon interview with painters from all around the world, asking them, is painting essential in time of crisis, and if so, why?
This is really hard question.
I find it very hard to answer this question.
It's quite complicated.
Complicated, sorry.
I couldn't say.
Do you mean to artists or do you mean in general?
Absolutely. I think there's only one answer.
Painting is essential to any time, and especially to pandemic times.
The quick version I would say is yes, absolutely. That applies for any creative pursuit.
Yes, painting is essential during the pandemic, especially for my personal situation. I'm apart from my family for 1 year, and painting is definitely like a mental therapy for me to connect with my family.
It's not really nice to paint this kind of world.
Yes, I think it is essential. But if you're a painter.
No, I don't think so. I don't not necessarily painting, but I think art in general.
The physical art is not essential.
Painting is essential, but not during this time of lockdown era.
But it's still very important to
try.
To try and to paint in this time.
We are in paradise for artists. There are thousands of brands, colors, gradients. I will just take the most essential supply for painting, which are oil painting, brushes, paint thinner, oil, and canvas. And I paid €66.73. Let's go. Hello.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
It was such a surprise to hear from you.
So, thank you for joining us. I'm very happy that you accepted this experiment, this marathon of interviews.
Sure, why not?
Painter.
Thank you for inviting and trust. Yes, I'm honored to be part.
We never see each other. This is the first time. I got your contact from a friend of a friend of a friend.
It's great. I mean, I love internet. It's like a huge family.
Here we are. I will ask you to introduce yourself quickly. You as an artist, something about your work related to your painting.
I'm a contemporary artist specializing in abstract paintings. Been traveling around the world for decades and now settled in Dubai, UAE.
I've been doing painting for I cannot remember. I start from female figure. I think this process also relate to the society, from my memory and everything that happens in the time.
My personal background is the study of philosophy and theory of culture. I'm fascinated by the light, not in the probabilistic sense, but in the sense of the metaphysics of light.
Like to paint the deepness of ocean and our subconsciousness.
I'm studying painting in Hamburg at Hochschule für Bildende Künste. Went to Hamburg 1.5 years ago. Experienced it at the beginning of lockdown.
Here I'm trying to work as an artist, let's say. We have something for about 7 years already, something like an artistic group, mostly music now. I have dealt with painting, with photography, with text. Sometimes I publish in something close to theory of art or something like this.
I'm a visual artist. My main work is painting. I'm working on, I call them palettes. Behind me there are some living things, textile works.
I grew up in Dubai. I've lived most of my life there. I moved to the US to study. I was in New York City and then I moved back to Dubai for a little bit. I got bitten by the travel bug around the time I was 21, 22 and started traveling the world. I started finding a lot of inspiration in different textile traditions around the world, particularly batik from Indonesia, shipibo from Peru, and mandalas from Tibet.
I work in Milan through different parts of the world. I was working on a kiss. At the beginning was a kiss between two girls from Asia, but later became a kiss from an Italian girl and a Chinese girl. That kiss became a COVID kiss, but after that kiss remains nothing.
I'm living north of China and I'm a painter. Most of my work is water-based. I'm very interested in the topic of mundane experience, like my daily life, but also the relationship between me and the society. I used to live in America for 10 years, but now I'm in China. Because of the pandemic, I cannot get back to my family. They are in America, they are living in Florida because my wife is taking her PhD degree. So I've been waiting for the US embassy to open for more than 1 year. That's my situation right now.
I wish a lot of good luck that you can, as soon as possible, see your family.
The pandemic seems getting better. The door of the US embassy will be opening soon.
I live in Berlin, recently moved here just before COVID. I've been focusing on oil painting for the last year. In this time of crisis, it has been really a weird time where I have to do a lot of introspective and figuring out how to deal with the current times also. I mostly do autobiographical art. I do sculpture, performance art as well. It's kind of just my way to figure out what it is to be a human being in this complicated context that it is, this life.
I actually studied a master's in painting at Brera, and then I went on and did another master's in visual cultures and curating. So even though I studied painting, I've found that my practice is not just painting. It's basically art making of all different things. I do a lot of digital painting, and now I'm doing a lot of multimedia work where I'm doing some digital painting that I'm then printing and then painting over that, and then also some collage. So it's a bit of a crossover between through the digital and the material and back again.
I'm a digital painter nomad. I go from fashion to photography, and my true passion is painting art since I'm a child.
Just now I'm a little depressed. I was living in Berlin 4 years and a half. Now I come back to Sicily to try to live here to survive this pandemic situation. It's not easy. It's a really hard work to paint to this painting. It's not nice to paint this kind of world.
If you look back at the history of art, the most important artistic avant-gardes came out exactly during profound crisis and war. Dadaism, Fluxus, Constructivism, futurists, Butoh, suprematists and so on were not only against the academic understanding of art, they imposed rule on what an artwork should look like and the way in which it should be produced, but were actually embracing social and political issues, facing social taboo and stereotype. But over time, avant-garde became associated with movements focusing primarily on expanding the frontier of aesthetic experiences, rather than with wider social reform.
Art is a space of ideas at first, and it should help us create a new world.
Yeah.
Maybe.
My opinion is like history books, especially that I've been living in many different countries. And I know history, the way they tell us in different countries is actually quite different, you know, like worldwide history. But art presents the true nature. Like there are no interest in it, and we truly express, we absorb what's happening around us, and we express it.
People have gained a lot of advantage from making painting. For that reason, making art is still a good opportunity to engage the individual into the social discussion or social crisis. I think it's still going on. I don't know if there's another medium can replace paintings. I believe if one person can make good, there will be a new driving force to influence other people. I just feel that power. I cannot avoid that power inside of my body. I just keep making.
Or our painting are alive. Without living, usually the artwork are not good. So there is nothing about culture in this period. After this era will remain only the COVID era, nothing more, because it's too pathos, too feeling about death. So I like the death, but I prefer the life. The last year I made illegal party. It was a funeral party, because in Italy we can make only funeral after lockdown era. So it's permitted only that.
It was maybe 200 years ago, even 2000 years ago. But now we have a lot of different type of imaginary production, which is more essential for most of people. But now maybe for many people, it's more like a private practice. Everybody knows that you cannot change the world via pictures on the piece of fabric. Now it's different in sense of private practice, in sense of concentration, of changing aspect of your attention or shifting your point of view. It's more private practice.
The process of creating painting requires tremendous attention, concentration, and strength. And as a result, the process of sublimation can turn into the kind of creative meditation. Whether painting can save the world, I doubt it. But particular individuals, yes, they certainly can.
Through the history, I'm sure many years later, when we hopefully leave all this behind, I'm sure the art is the one that will tell the true story, what happened and how we felt about it, most important.
So let's go to the very core of this conversation, which is if you think art and especially painting is essential during time of crisis. And I ask you this because from one point of view, we started to paint Byzance on the surface of the cave, even before we could speak words or have a structural language. Painting seems to belong to the very essence of human expression. And from another point of view, seems that throughout the representation of these hunting images, we started to develop this important part of the brain that provide us with the quality for survival and evolution. And so here comes my question: if we really can do without art and especially painting during time of crisis?
For me, it's like I need painting more than painting needs me.
Painting has been existing for a long time, like centuries, right? So it is kind of like rooted into the human being's gene.
The painting technique and the point of view in painting was always shifting. This is really interesting to see over time how artists have different perspective, painting becoming like a tool to recording the time, and it's like really beyond anything else.
Through the history, art actually people able to tell naked truth, show the true colors and true nature of the time they live in.
It's necessary. It's like a nourishment for your mind. It enriches your mind. But I mean, you can do that also through music and reading a book, and painting is like just one of it. The cave paintings, they were kind of like a storytelling about these really important animals that they were like hunting for food, and it was like kind of like expressing some significant thing in the world. And I think like we're still doing it, but like in a different way. I mean, through art, we are like taking things that's essential for the human mind, giving it language in pictures. It's like something that words cannot say. You can't describe a painting. You cannot describe why it's essential. It is. That's the magic about it.
I think it's really interesting to see different artists approaching. So, of course, like in pandemic, you miss the old life. You don't think of the painting, but I believe it's constantly recording. And like for artists, we are not speak for ourselves, but we speak for the time we live.
The timing of people to put out and make an output instead of input, spend time to put out, I call this art. This is essential because when we singing, or when we painting, when we take a photo, when we focus to another subject that is a symbol that you can divide with all the humanity, you focus on your spirit, you don't focus on your monkey body. That it can get virus, it can die. Focusing on something that it cannot die. You can focus on something that is infinite. You can focus on something that it make you not scared about life. I say monkey because monkey are very beautiful, so we can try to. But the things is not just to think with the left brain, this masculine left brain. I don't care is girl or man. This world is going to masculine left brain by everyone.
Because of the physical distance between me and my family, for now, the painting is definitely like a mental bridge to fill the gap. But also, I'm very interested in to reveal the relationship between me and my kids and my wife. And I use painting as a medium to draw my attention into the process of revealing of the relationship. I paint a lot of my boy and my girl. My girl is 2, and I haven't seen her after her 1 year old, so it's a long time. So I'm kind of worried about if she still can remember me. But physically, I definitely cannot go there because of the transportation policy, the crisis of pandemic, because of the embassy policy. I'm still waiting. So painting is essential, especially during this time for me.
Painting, I'm not sure about the essential. In my opinion, it's a good choice. In this period, painting is a good choice as a new activity for a person, because I think it's the most available art. But you make it essential. After several months or sometimes several years, you find out it is essential for you or not. I think there's no the periods, pandemic, this lockdown, or other periods.
Painting and being essential during lockdown, I would say yes again, because I have a belief that making is thinking. So if I'm making a painting, I'm thinking throughout that process. And then the final form of the art, of the work, the painting itself, is not just the final form, I think it's, like a integration between society, myself, the people that view it, and the processes. So it's very important at the moment. And because painting is one of those art forms that is probably more readily consumed, then it gives painting the more importance.
Cholowski saying that painting, are you born with it and you die with it, or is die inside of you while you live it? mission from or a gift for the artists or for the painters to create in the hardest time will always reflect what we live in.
In these times, it's an opportunity for people to reflect inwards and to spend more time with things that, you know, in the daily hustle bustle, you don't get the chance to do. And a lot of people already have discovered that painting is something that they genuinely enjoy.
Very often I met people who said, I cannot draw, I cannot paint. And it's not true, because human being can draw and paint. It's the oldest. People can draw and paint before talking or writing, and it's true. So it's really something that we have indeed.
Especially at pandemic times, because it gives us the opportunity to speak out our soul, our thoughts, our concerns and worries.
Essential all time for me as a painter, just to be close to my imaginative world. Every time. It doesn't depend on pandemic time or some special times.
I try to paint something with a charcoal, trying to make some pictures great, but it was a trying. It's not really nice to to paint this kind of world. It's not easy. I was thinking, okay, I stopped to paint. It's very important to survive in just this is the moment, and not and not the page to paint. But painting is for me is a natural world. I'm supposed to live in a different way, because if you paint, you live in a different way. Just you have to take time for you and for your painting, but not for other things.
We actually have another testimony from a painter, Adi Axiad. Doesn't like to be filmed, so he wrote me a message and says, according to the ancient legend by Leonardo Vasari and Winkelmann, painting was born from the desire of a young woman to fix on the wall the outline of the shadow of her beloved, about to separate from her. I like the legend, and I like to think that the painting was born to solve a couple cries. I find it very spontaneous, and spontaneously is the way we all start painting as children. For the young woman, therefore, painting was undoubtedly an essential oil. Even I, in her shoes, I would have done the same thing. And this is the image that he sent it to me. The representation of the woman that tried to fix the outline of the shadow of her beloved, but the faces are changed with mine and his. Dada, for example, was a revolt against the culture and values, which it was believed had caused and supported the bloodshed of First World War. The Dadaist goal was not to have art as an end in itself, but to be an opportunity for the true perception and criticism of the time where we live in. In 1825, the essay titled "The Artist, the Scientist and the Industrialist," San Simone Orin Rodriguez talked about the power of art as the most immediate and fastest way to social, political and economical reform. In this time of pandemic and general crisis, painting seems to assume an important role not only for artists, but also for people that have nothing to do with paintings, becoming a way to bypass the limit of space in a time of restriction and isolation.
It's really great that all artists around the world can share it online, and everybody can see, everybody can express their point. You can actually be part of something big. You are not alone. The whole world is going through the same thing. Everybody dealing with it differently, and you can see all different perspectives and different colors and different ideas, and how our feelings fit in all of this.
Now we are in the same situation, a crucial moment like in the history.
Yes.
And it should be something. I believe new appearances, I think something new in art too should appear after the crisis time. And I think maybe now this moment is maybe essential for artists too. just to like rebuild our structure of thoughts, just to put a question. Okay, like you do. The session now, yes, it's a good question. I mean, because it's a space of ideas at first, and it should help us create a new world.
Maybe generally speaking, painting already has the history, and inside of this history, somewhere in this history, we can speak about the real examples of how painting, generally speaking, producing of images having such a serious role, tremendous impact on the, let's say, society, on the beliefs. And this question is more actual for those times. Painting has an essential role, but now it has different type. It could be more therapeutic form of life. It could be more like a practice. For maybe for a lot of people, at least for more people than before.
We live in one of the worst era that we can after the golden age. Now one of the worst. To live, it's illegal. It's strange. So if you stay at home, you are legal, but to stay too much time at home, it's unhealthy. But in this last year, I made many parties, illegal party, outside and inside. And the people who came are amazing because every party was safety and full of culture, with dress code, like the first of the year, the Chinese here. The first party was a funeral party because in Italy we can make only funeral after lockdown era. So it's permitted only that. The music of funeral of different nations was the soundtrack of the party. After that party, we made a different kind of party that was like an interpretation of the time. So the second was psychedelic party because this time it's a little bit psychedelic because the truth is not the right way.
Take the time to paint or draw, sculpt, anything which allows you to create. That's the most important thing, to constantly create. Even if it's a piece of music, even if it's a little dance form, it's the best way to spend this time.
For sure, it was the time when a lot of people felt lost and, for example, stuck in their creativity. I also had these kind of moments. But then you learn how to trust yourself without any decorations of shows, exhibitions, other people or events or influence of other artists. You feel yourself like a monk, like a Buddhist monk in a cave, or with only your subconsciousness and your toolkit as an artist, and you can kind of dive inside or you can create.
Yeah, painting specifically historically had a lot of advantages, as both spiritual people and scientific people will attest. You can probe painters and you can even go inwards and find that when you paint, just like listening to a piece of music, your brain is just so much more active. That's led to this whole concept of art therapy. So I don't want to get into that, but from my personal experience, I will say that painting has transformed my life as it has the lives of many of my friends and family, and especially in this time, because we find that for this time that we're in, when you sit down and you paint for, let's say, 3 to 4 hours, it really becomes a form of meditation, where you're dedicating that time to yourself. And it's almost like paying respect to yourself and to your body and to your mind, which is why, for me, I'm so interested in finding ways to constantly share this idea with the world.
Paintings always a reflection of the time they're made in. And I think it's a very good resource for later, generations to look, especially at paintings, because paintings do things that photographs can't do because we see behind things, try to catch a feeling.
Painting always will be asked, like, you know, once there's photograph, painting was asked, you know, why do you exist? We have photography, and why do we need painting? And in the pandemic time, this question again.
We think about how it was to live in this pandemic or this very special situation. It's very important to see how people felt during this time. And I think painting is a very good craft to work with it.
It's something that belongs to human. Like we start, you know, not from words but from painting. So I think this is something that human use as a tool to express. Like it's really basic.
How the pandemic situation has changed the way people participating into the social activity, especially during the pandemic. I cannot go anywhere. I cannot meet somebody in person. So most of the time I just make a call or video call. It's kind of like a new social behavior. But painting is definitely like a physical activity. I think painting gave me a chance or opportunity to make myself feel alive. Because of the physical activity, I can still have that ability to participate into the new environment. Even though the new reality seems a little bit surreal, but my opinion is about surreal too. So it's like a parallel to another world. It's giving me a chance to rethink about the new reality. Because I left my hometown for a long time. So this is the opportunity to think about where I'm from. This is a good opportunity, but in a very quiet way.
I guess the pandemic times pushed creative branch to its limits because it was a really tough times. But from the other hand, it gave us, the artists, a chance to explore new interfaces and new mediums and the new channels, ways to reach the audience.
So painting is interesting, but not in this era. For me, produce less and save your ideas for later.
Well, I don't consider painting as a kind of form of therapy. It didn't change my life, probably because we are always in a crisis situation, so it didn't change my life.
Of course, in Sicily, I mean, it's crisis every day.
Yeah, exactly. In Sicily, it's quite hard every day, so it didn't change my life.
I mean, just technically speaking, how much people can remember some of contemporary paintings? The last few pictures of David Hockney, for example, even Francis Bacon. It depends of what we think about the world, but anyway, it hasn't even so serious impact even for, let's say, high society. Because it is already a kind of artifact. It is not the same impact of imagery, of imagination inside of it than it was even 100 years ago. Nobody cares about Black Square now. And nobody cares about even the most cruel picture that it was made. Maybe it was a shock about 50 years or 70 years ago with Francis Bacon. But now they changed the form of being medium. They're not a medium for translation of something, of ideas.
Because I believe art contains some forces which can lead us to the light, I can say.
Artists and musicians have kind of shifted the way in which they work. For example, we have seen like live streaming performances, online exhibition, but still find art to enjoy, especially painting throughout the screen of our computer, because painting is still looking for visitors, still looking for the direct experience of the person. What do you think?
It's a tough time for painting, because you have to have the closeness to the painting. You have being able to grasp it in real life. It's
been challenging. Like this question is like exploding.
Yeah.
Like, but But for me, I do the really traditional way with material, with a canvas.
I was really impressed to see a lot of painters doing completely new things, like, for example, performing online and trying projection mapping or animation, just switching to something new, exploring new tools. I think it's beautiful because that's exactly how we grow in the state of stress and change, challenging ourselves. That's a way to develop.
Painting is it's like a being. It has this aura, it has this kind of energy that it doesn't translate onto a screen, a photo or a video. It's a tricky time for a painter. So I think probably most painters are just, adapting, maybe doing different stuff as well, or just living a hermit life in the studio, just, using it to produce for the next opportunity.
People go to museum to see painting in person having a various reason. For some of them, they might be interested in the behavior of looking. But for those who have some background of painting, they really need to take a look closely to see the surface. I made my painting start with thinking about how to manage the surface. And through the process, I can engage my mind into the content or subject I'm painting. In terms of the pandemic, most people don't have that opportunity to go to the museum or gallery to see the work in person. They have lost the opportunity to see the painting surface, to feel the optical effects, to see how the brush stroke move and change. That is, I think that those of the part is very important for people to see painting in person.
And it's a hard question because I agree with you. It's so relevant with painting, specifically to view the object in reality. I love to look at Instagram and look at all the works and look at everything, and I can see things that, I really would like that. But they have so much more power when you see them, So how can that work? Well, it just has to mean that we are able to still view objects. I mean, the object of the painting can't give me a virus. Do I have to interact with people to interact with art, I suppose is the question.
Yeah, I think the definition of painting has changed in terms of my personal practice. I think of painting as a mental space or meditative process. But for now, I don't have studio here, and because of the pandemic, I only can stay at home for the whole day. The environment and the setup of the studio has been changed. I have to think about how to define my painting in terms of the new reality. And for now, painting is like an art therapy for me. It's really like how to calm myself down, become aware of my feeling of my family. I call them a driving force for me to make my painting. Instead of think about how to make painting to the show and what's the best avenue or space to show my painting, those kind of practical aspects, I only think about how to calm myself down and make me become strong, right? I don't have choice. So that's my only activity that's my privilege also. I think making painting is my privilege.
My practice during the lockdown was given the space. So in some ways, the lockdown's always seen as a negative, but personally for me as an artist, it was a complete positive because I was locked down in my studio and therefore was sort of given the freedom to just completely go nuts. And my painting really developed.
It changed a lot. I switched my studio to my additional room in my flat. So that means for me that painting became more available. I can do this literally, like in pyjama. I also tried out myself as a performer. In the past, I used to work with other people and performer and dancers, but I trusted myself and just give it a try. I just accepted myself with all my weaknesses, and I finally found time to read what I always postponed. I can say that lockdown was a for sure challenging time, but in general, it was very fulfilling time.
I work less than the other period. It's better to paint, but save the energy and the ideas for later. I think will be better. And I made also exhibition this period, and one of the exhibition in What Will Remain After This, the title was Nothing will remain, because it will be only the copies here.
I've been painting like usual. I can say that I had more time doing my work, but it's like everyone. Painting is part of my life. It's part of my daily practice. Probably for us as artists, it's the same situation. So probably maybe for some people, pain, it was a way to feel better. I don't really know, because I've been very far away from this concept of painting. Well, of course, it's a way of thinking. It's my language.
About 2-3 months, I left any other things, and I tried to focus just on painting.
What changed more was just moving to Berlin and didn't have a studio, and then I got a studio, and then I started painting. Because I think that COVID didn't change my practice, but it was other reasons that changing it.
Lockdown is a good way of putting it, is to really lock down my practice. Like as in, I had a lot of work that was sort of all over the place. Less the creative work, I suppose, and more looking at what I'd created already and the power within that, or trying to express the power within.
Now there's no more avant-garde, small groups or tribe, because everyone is alone in his space, in his mind especially.
Like there always will be crisis, so you have to continue what you are doing and don't let this kind of thing get in your way.
For me, it was very peculiar because my last 3 years in Berlin work, it was about hand and the touch of people. With the left brain, with our monkey body, we can just reach part of the information that we exchange with the touch. So it was like an advice to people to touch. When lockdown, all this philosophy of separation came, for me it was like a crash. I tried to tell people touch it, and now all the world say don't touch it. My art, it was still hard. It was still from the heart, speaking to the heart of people. I started again to painting, and I started new project, very big, very cool, and I fixed my project to a new word. If the word is tougher, I will go tougher with art to them.
Thank you for having me. Give me a chance to rethink my past experience. I don't have any specific language to describe that, but because of your questions, I start thinking about it. Thank you.
I hope you will see your family soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep in touch and continue creating.
You continue painting, I think.
So I will start painting.
Very
After
good,
this, I will start painting, definitely.
Thank you, Andreas, for having me.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Chan.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I hope good luck.
Okay, Andrea, ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kisses. Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao ciao.
E spero che ci vediamo un giorno in un angolo del mondo.